Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Thomas. When I consider in the abstract jazz and electronics, I imagine sometimes a sort of fight between tradition and, on the other side, freedom and the frame, between creative anarchy and rules to tame. Is it too romantic? I mean, which is the creative dynamic between these two elements, in your opinion, at first? Freedom and rules, acoustic and electronics, and you know what I mean.
Yes, I think it's the same whether it's electronic music or just acoustic music, at least for us. And I think the reason why Ian and I have been playing together since 1998 for such a long time, I think it's because we have the same ideas on rules and, you know, what's allowed to do and not. And in music, there's a lot of rules all the time. And I think both Ian and I, we like a bit of anarchy. And we don't like to be, you know, placed in a genre or being told what to do. So I think when we started playing in Food, it was more like a free jazz quartet. And then we decided that if we want to play melodies, we play melodies. If we want to play something really beautiful, we can play beautiful. If we want to play noise, we play noise, and we can play beats, and we can play free. And I think to us, that's what we define by free music. But then, having said that, I think it's important to make your own rules, you know, and own limitations. Because if there's too many options all the time and you end up going in too many directions, you know, you lose the form of the music, and that's different, I think.
And anyway, they are your rules in this case.
Well, you can think of them as rules, or you can think of them as good choices or bad choices for the music in the situation where it's happening. So when things work, it's because good choices are made and the sound of the electronics and the acoustic instruments are right in the space, not two separate entities.
And Food started as a quartet, but basically yours is a duo, let's say, open to collaboration, an open project. We can quote among musicians that played with you both, among others, Nils Petter Molver, Christian Fennet, Sarven Eriksen, Mats Eilertsen, Gianluca Petrel. How do you organize the role of third parties in your ensemble? They say 3 or more of a perfect fair.
Three's a crowd, they say, don't they?
Yeah, they say.
Well, I think we like to try and find the musicians that we can invite to be part of what we already do, rather than to try and compromise what we do to accommodate other musicians. So sometimes it's worked really, really well if we can pick the right people who understand that we're not trying to fill the sound up all the time. We're not trying to have a situation where somebody's the soloist particularly. It's more part of a group thing, and also having the courage to not play and to sit things out for a while other people in the band are playing, in order for something else to happen, or just to leave somebody to play on their own and let it grow from there. So some people, I think, feel are more uncomfortable with silence than others when you invite them into a situation, but out of the silence things can happen. So.
And we never give any rules. I mean, when we start playing with musicians, it's because we have an idea that this might work, and if it does, we continue working with them. If it's, you know, both like it. If not, then it might just be one-off.
Yeah.
And talking about developments of the musical scene in which you are involved, first of all, do you feel part of a certain scenario, maybe difficult to be defined? It could be electronic jazz or simply Nordic modern jazz. Do you feel that some of your colleagues are closer to your experiences, exploring in parallel directions?
I think it's very hard for us to define where we belong and what kind of music we create. I mean, we read about it, you know. You have journalists who defines us and they might say that with this record they're going in this direction, and while to us it can just be how we felt the day we were in the studio, and then the next day we'll do something completely different. And also the fact that we play out of how we feel, how the room feels, who we're working with. So if we would play in a cathedral, it'd be a very different concert to an outdoor stage,
or a
for
club.
instance, or a club.
Yeah.
Like we played here in that club yesterday in Torino, where it was sort of more like a rock club. Loads of people, a bit noisy, and then we play more information in the music, maybe a bit more beat oriented and less of the quiet parts.
It's the music has to fill the space right for what the space is, I think.
Yeah.
To adapt.
This is for Thomas. Due to the explosion of music expressions and parallel explosion of technological possibilities, and now the palette of the musician is getting bigger and bigger. Which are the most intriguing news for you, or the current direction of your musical experiences and explorations?
Do you mean electronically?
Yeah, and according to the new possibilities, anyhow.
That's quite interesting, because much of the equipment I use is quite old. And I think, there's loads of possibilities with the computers, lots of nice software, which I don't use. I use hardware samplers, even though I have one brand new sampler. But I think I'm very little concerned about the technological side. I'm more concerned about the creation and what to create musically. And to me, the electronics has always been a substitute to my drums and percussion, allowing me to fulfill my ideas that I can't do without it. So I think it's much more important to focus on what I want to do first, instead of focusing on what the gadget is capable of doing, because I like to be in control and I like to be the one who decides what's being done. So I'm sure that there's loads of possibility that I'm not using with my electronics, and some things I try out and then I understand that this is not interesting to me, but I have certain things I want to create musically, and of course the technology allows me to do that in a great way. But then again, there's a difference of, for instance, when I compose music today, I can sit at home writing music. I record music at home on my Mac and have a sound card and microphones and things at home. So I can do a lot compositionally and also recording wise, which I couldn't 10 years ago. But I think actually the musical side, then I'm concentrating more on what's needed to fulfill my ideas.
This one for Iain. Part of your career is linked, among others, to experiences with Bill Bradford Earthworks, even the Karnataka College of Percussion, and obviously Thomas and food experience. It seems there's a common line to share your music and inspiration with uncommon percussive companions. Does it happen by chance or not?
I'd never really thought of it in a percussion perspective, but I think for me, I play a lot of diverse music. I play everything from folk music with June Tabor right the way through to at the other end of the spectrum, you could say, with food and things in between. I work sometimes with an accordionist, sometimes with a acoustic classic jazz quartet and stuff. I see them all as being a different side of the same thing. I don't see them as separate genres or separate entities. And the connection between all those things is quite logical to me. Interestingly, like the Indian percussion group, that was that's like another dimension as well. We've had some interaction with them as well, haven't we? Yeah, so not specifically by percussion, but more by a personal connection and a thread running through all the things that I do, rather than thinking of them as this hat to wear or that hat to wear when you're doing a different thing.
Thomas, which are the main characteristics of Time is a Blind Guide project? Is a sort of puzzle, string sections, piano trio, your percussive link. It's complex.
That's just what it is. What you said now, you got it. That was sort of my idea with the band when I was challenged to make a new band, which wasn't my intention. I wanted to see if I could have an ensemble where I could use three things I liked working with. The percussion, which I like writing for drum ensembles, and I have a drum ensemble, and piano trio and strings as well. So that was the idea behind the band. And after we played, we realized it worked well, and we've continued.
To be complex was the idea.
Yeah, I wanted actually. I like melodies a lot, and I wanted to have a totally acoustic ensemble. That's another thing I like to think of the different bands as different directions as well. So playing in Food, I don't need another band like that, because this is working nicely as it is. So I wanted to have something completely different. So when I wrote music, it was working with elements that I liked and that I didn't use in other bands. And I've worked a lot with polyphone music and time signatures and things like that. So I wanted to develop that more, and so I did with some, melodic chamber kind of thoughts.
Iain, could you tell us about your experience as a movie soundtrack composer? Which kind of work is it for you in particular? And how does this experience affect your compositional process?
Well, both the movies that I've been composer for were for Dave McKean, the film director, who we also have recently been using with images with Food. He's got a lot of amazing images that he's made into a film, and we've actually recently been playing to a film. So we're quite involved with Dave. In terms of how it's been working with him, his images are so strong, and he's also got strong musical ideas himself. So sometimes it's a case of working things out with Dave. He's got quite strong ideas musically as well, but not always the same taste as me. So there's a bit of a deal to be done. I think Dave's taste is slightly different to mine. Mine's a little bit more contemporary jazz and classical music, and he's got a bit more of a foot in the 80s and 90s, should we say. But he's a great musician, and it's always possible to think of musical ideas to put to the images and the characters and the situations and the stuff he's done. So we've got a very good sort of ongoing, strong relationship. We did many projects, not just the films.
And what few people know is that he actually put out our two first records. So he made Feral label together with Iain in order to release our two first records, that was a good start.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Iain. Thank you very much, Thomas.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, pleasure.
Yeah.